hello. Let's see who's around live. As I get comfortable. Give you a few secondos to see if anyone's actually going to jump on live. I know it's a strange time. I wouldn't normally go live at this time. I'd normally be at the gym hitting things or eating my dinner. Because I'm an old lady, so I eat dinner very early. Apparently it's actually part of my human design chart that my digestion is best when there is still natural daylight outside. The more you know. So let me just get into talking about this. Those of you who followed me for a while will know that when I receive the download for a new offering, workshop, program, whatever, I will get the name, I will get the price, I will understand, like, I'll kind of get a sense in my body of what the thing is. But I don't always... Oh, in fact, I fucking rarely... What is that? Oh, I just saw something caught my eye. Magpie much? Yes. So I don't often know the exact content of what's going to be delivered. And the same is very true of this Lionsgate event that I'm running with my beautiful friend Jamie at the weekend, this weekend coming. And I've put the link up above this live stream if you are interested, because it's very, very reasonably priced, and to make sure that no one can use money as an excuse, like to excuse themselves out of doing the work that they need to do. Sometimes we can be like, oh, I don't know, it's a bit much, it's not really worth the investment for me right now, I can't really justify it. We have priced it in a way that means that it is a fuck yes. And if you know you need to be in there, we have got 3 payment plan options for you to make it really, really easy for you to say yes. And I wasn't really sure. When I actually said to Jamie, I think we should do payment plan options, she was like, for an $88 thing, are you sure? And I was just like, yeah, I don't know why, but it feels like this work is so potent, so powerful and important that we really can't have anybody having money as a reason or as an excuse not to be in that container if they feel called. I haven't really known what my part of the puzzle is going to look like yet. When Jamie and I met last week to discuss, like, what does this feel like for both of us? We were talking about, she definitely knows more about astrology, about, you know, about the planets, about these portals, about our kind of star families or whatever you want to call them. She knows about that stuff. She is like wisdom incarnate when it comes to these things. She just knows things. And the way in which she speaks about them really helps me to understand what's going on. I call her Mama Moon, because whenever there's a moon, she's got my astrology chart, and I'd be like, Mama Moon, what the fuck's happening? And she'll just, you know, relate it to me in a way that I can then apply it to my life and understand it. So that's why I really love the way that she talks about astrology. And then another piece here is I wanted to do some emotional clearing and some EFT in that process. And I didn't really know, but I never know. And I say this all the time. I never know what's going to come through until I am on that call, I'm on that live stream, I'm running that program, I'm in the session with a client. I don't know. I don't show up like... Sometimes I have a few things that have come through just before the session that I know might need to be worked on, but I never show up with like an ABC of what we're going to do. And if there's ever a list involved in my offerings and my programs that I run, it's very much just bullet points that I will then use as prompts to remind myself of what I knew was important before we got on the call. When it comes to this Lionsgate event, I have been receiving some information about certain clears that we're going to be doing. And then today, something, a beautiful, amazing, incredible woman that I follow online called Sigourney posted something, and it was very evocative, and it really triggered a response in me. And it was like someone had kind of punched me in the throat, but like, wake the fuck up. You know, you've got a role to play right now. You've got things that you need to be saying. You've got a message that you need to share. This particular thread of this message can only come through you. And that makes you feel very confronted to say that, because I'm like, ooh, maybe I'll just sit back and not say anything and just let other people figure it all out for themselves. But there's something you know, unique in my transmission that means that even people who are not super into spirituality already, or people who aren't already super woo, or like Jamie and I call it like gangster woo, we're kind of like gangster but like real talk. Gangster, I mean spiritual, but like real talk spirituality. Like, this is what's happening, this is how it's showing up in your life, this is where we're going to kick your ass, now go do the fucking thing and enjoy the fact that you're also human as well as a spiritual being, right? We're not about this dissociated kind of self-congratulatory spirituality, like, yes, well done me, I'm so evolved. We're like, okay, cool, now I've done that, I've done my shadow work, what do I need to do, what's the next piece of the mission, let's go, let's bring it to the people. So when we get together, there's a really potent energy, and when I am in her presence, she's a water constitutional factor and I'm fire. So what tends to happen is she, like, I don't know, she kind of get like being in each other's energy like feeds us. When we're together, we have all this inspiration, the conversation flows so freely, but I also get so much clarity around what's moving for me and how I can bring that to the collective. So with this Lion's Gate, I was feeling today into this triggering post that I'd seen. It's meant to be triggering, it's meant to elicit a response, it's very evocative. I looked at it and I was like, yeah, that's like a gut punch and a wake the fuck up, Georgina. And then when I really felt into it and I kind of allowed myself to just be with the energy for a moment, the emotion that was moving through me, like, what is this? What is my part to play in this particular moment in history? Like, what is it that I'm meant to be doing right now? And as I felt into my body, I realized that I remembered that I have Gene Key 55, which is about the shadow of Gene Key 55 is victimization, and the gift and the siddhi are both the same. They're both freedom. So I guess that's why so many people resonate with my message and come to me like as a form of permission. A lot of people say, like, it's just like when I'm with you, you give me permission to be what I want to do, to say what I want, and to you know, really admit what I want from my life. So maybe there's a part of that freedom piece, which is like, I genuinely believe that we are not victims of circumstance. In fact, my podcast today was very much talking about, you know, how sometimes we can become victimized by our own spirituality and our own mission on this planet, and we can get very victimized by that whole situation. And when we actually just own it, name it, claim it, and decide, I'm on this planet for a reason. I'm in this human body, not just any human body. You are in the body that you are in, with the gifts and the natural talents that this physical body has, because that's what you are meant to have. That's what you needed to equip you for your mission on this planet. That's it. Simple. Everything you have, everything you need is encoded in your DNA. You have it right now. So when I was thinking and kind of contemplating the 55th gene key and how there's this victimization, and it's so easy for us to be in the frequency of victimization, particularly when we're in what's happening in the world right now. We can feel very victimized, but we can also want to make other people to blame. We can want to not own our choices, and we can want to look at other people and be like, well, I've decided this and now I need you to decide that as well, to justify the fact that I made a decision about my life. But a lot of people aren't necessarily making decisions based on their sovereignty, based on what they truly believe, based on their own research or their authority. If you're, you know, into the human design world, a lot of people are making decisions based on fear, based on popular mainstream media, based on fear mongering, based on what their partners think they should do or what their work think they should do. And look, don't get me wrong, I don't give a fuck what side of this argument you stand on with what's happening in the world right now. I really don't. I genuinely believe that everybody has the right to have their opinion and make the decision they want to make. This is not about pushing an agenda. This is about freedom. This is about freedom for you to choose what you want to do, and freedom for you to choose the narrative and what feels true for you as an individual. And even as I'm saying this, I know it's very confronting, and particularly as someone with an open Ajna center, I'm like, I can see all the different truths, I can see all the different perspectives, and it's very difficult for me to actually like land on any one truth, because anything is true if you believe it to be. And even if it's not like a fact, if you're like a solid fact, if it feels true to you, then it is truth to you. And I'm not going to fight anyone for their right to believe their own truth, because that just feels like a fucking awful thing to do. Whatever is true for you, and if you desire to keep that being true for you, that's fine, right? When I was feeling into the Gene Key 55 today, and I was thinking about how it sits with where we are globally, where we are, you know, in the scale of like the timeline of humanity, when I kind of zoom out, as at that 6th line in human design, when I like zoom out and I look at everything in a bigger picture, I can see that even the separation that's happening now, and even the like the friction that's happening now, is kind of necessary, because it's making people make decisions about things. It's making people uncomfortable, and when people are uncomfortable, they either act from fear or they act from love. And it's just been so fascinating to kind of lean back and be an observer, but now I'm very much feeling this like call to arms, and it terrifies the living fuck out of me, I'm not gonna lie. But this like warrior energy is really coming through with this Lion's Gate portal, and I felt strangely calm, but then this kind of inner strength just really being grounded into my body around whatever this transmission and clearing is going to be on Saturday and Sunday. So if you are feeling called to join that, please just get your butts in there. This is not about, you know, it's not about the fucking pandemic, you know, it's just not. It's just that there was a post today that was around that subject that triggered something in me. And it's something that we can't escape right now. It's everywhere. Whether you watch the news or whether you don't, whether you're just innocently having a cup of tea or walking your dog or whatever it is you're doing, it seems like there's always somebody, someone, somewhere having a discussion about some piece of this, right? The impact it's had, you know, the medical side of things, whatever. There's always seems to be something somewhere, even if it's just people with their masks or whatever it is. We cannot escape the fact that this is happening in the world right now. What we can do is we can help ourselves to cultivate a sense of internal freedom. We can cultivate, not to keep us trapped for longer, by the way. This is like the gratitude, I call it the gratitude trap. You know, when someone will literally keep themselves in a shit situation for longer than they should, because they're able to find gratitude in everything. So they almost spiritually bypass themselves out of actually taking action and moving forward. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about allowing us to be the embodiment of the frequency of freedom, because if we continue to allow the loudest voices to be the ones that are the most scared, then all that's going to happen is that that's going to end up infiltrating our psyche as well. It's not about shouting louder than anybody else. It is purely about being a sovereign being, making a choice for yourself about how you wish to feel in any given moment. What frequency do you wish to be transmitting? And therefore, what do you wish to be receiving back? And let's really cultivate that sense of internal freedom and shift from the shadow of victimization that is so alive in the world right now. It doesn't matter where you sit on any end or where you sit on any spectrum of any argument that's currently happening in the world right now. Really, what I'm talking about is, are you free? Are you, as an individual, in your mind, in your spirit, in your body, can you access the frequency of freedom? Because the more that we stay in contraction and fear and waiting, the longer we perpetuate that vibration. So let us all take responsibility for ourselves, for the role that we are playing, and let's really start to understand that when we create more heart connection, when we create more of a frequency of love and expansion and openness within ourselves, we radiate that out into the world. And holy fuck, doesn't the world need a bit more of that right now? So if this is resonating with you and you've really been feeling any of these things, or you know, whether you agree or disagree with my views, which I haven't shared on purpose, because really my views are my views. And yeah, I just watched this amazing Russell Brand clip on IGTV, and he said, you know, like basically that truth doesn't stay the same like all the time. The more information I gather about life, any situation, even like look at it, it's taking an unemotive subject, something like, I don't know, food, right? It's like the more information I gather about food, the more I understand that actually whatever I eat, there are certain foods that everyone seems to agree are good to have more of. There are some foods that everyone seems to agree are like good to have maybe slightly less of. But really, overall, there are so many schools of thought on food and what is good for us and what is bad for us, that so many different ways, approaches of eating and exercising, moving my body have worked for me for a time, because I was invested in the belief that that was the truth and this was what was going to work for me. And then maybe my truth shifted and it started to not feel so good anymore. So I sought more information. And what I've effectively done now is I've layered pieces of information so that I've reached a point where I feel comfortable with how I consume food. You know, I still have a little blip every now and then where I'm not so happy with it, but human as fuck, right? And I think the same is true for any fucking truth on the planet. It can all change. The more information you gather, the more you live into a truth, try it on for size and live into it a little bit, you can change your perception, your perspective on something once you have new information, or when something changes inside of you. So let's not get bogged down in fucking what is true, what is not true. Let's remember that really what is important right now, and what I'm speaking about with this Lionsgate portal, is very much about this sovereignty, this remembering that you are so fucking powerful. When you own what is true for you in any given moment and you live into that, you're so powerful. Just by being the embodiment of your truth. You don't have to rant and shout, you know, you can just be the truth that you know and embody that and just transmit that out into the world. And part of the clearing I'm really feeling is going to be ancestral. I've been feeling into it a lot. And I said to Jamie, I was like having a bit of like, who am I to fucking do ancestral clearing? The last time I did this was last year, and it was, I did some ancestral witch wound clearing around like the witch hunts. And I felt exactly the same. I was like, who the fuck am I to be clearing ancestral lineage around the witch hunts and the witch wound? Like, who do I think I am? But it was so powerful. It's one of my favorite things I've ever run. And sometimes I'm like, maybe I should run it again. But actually it was so perfect. You can still buy it as a, I put it in my membership site so that anyone who wants to receive that transmission and the clearing and the meditations and the ancestral healing that we did, you can buy it. You know, I can drop a link if you want that. Just let me know in the comments, tag me and say you want the witch wound thing, and I will drop the comments. It's like £66.66. It's absolutely mind-blowingly powerful. But when I actually feel that desire or that call to do ancestral clearing, it always is like, oh fuck, really? Me, little old me? Is that what I'm going to be doing right now? It feels a bit big. It feels very woo is what it feels. Doing ancestral clearing feels very like woo. I'm like, I'm not that kind of woo, am I? But apparently I am. So I'm feeling that there's going to be some kind of ancestral clearing, because let's face it, right now on the planet, every single human who exists right now has at some point in their lineage, in their ancestral lineage, they have somebody who lived through at least the Second World War. Wherever they were in the world, they experienced that as a global phenomenon, as a fucking, you know, it was fucking insane when we look back on it now and we're like, holy fuck, that was like my grandparents' lifetime. Like, what the fuck? That's like 2 generations ago for me. Like, how is that so close? That's insane. And the fact of the matter is, all of that scarcity, all of that fear, all of that lack of freedom, all of that kind of stuff, we're carrying a frequency around that in our DNA, because our ancestors not that long ago all lived through that. So there's this kind of scarcity, there's this fear, there's this kind of propagandism, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it feels very intense. It feels very big. I'm slightly scared. I'm not going to lie, the enormity. I even feel slightly scared talking about this stuff, because I don't even feel like that you can ever have enough knowledge, you know? I just, who the fuck am I? But the fact of the matter is, this is what's coming through. And if it's still coming through when I go in to do the clearing on Saturday, then that is exactly what we will be doing. So know that with the Lion's Gate, we are really bringing to the front everything that is getting in the way of standing in the way of our personal power. And if that means we have to go back a few generations and like clear the line as well as ourselves, bring it the fuck on, right? Bring it the fuck on. So be prepared, people, because this Lionsgate event is not for the faint of heart. It is going to be fucking intense and powerful and magical, and also it's going to be highly entertaining because it's got me and Jamie. We are steering that ship, and we are steering you into freedom, joy, courage, amazingness. So come and join us. If you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments below and give me a little tag. As you can see, I'm like partly excited, partly nervous, and like a mild trepidation at the fact that this stuff is coming through, and I'm like, I don't want to get involved in the politics of the world right now. Like, I don't want to get fucking involved in the politics of this shit right now. But all I know is what I'm being guided to do, and whenever, this is me reassuring myself, you're going to get to witness this real time. Hey, Levy! Saw your little love heart bubble. I know, because I have seen it time and time again, that whenever I feel deeply confronted about pulling something through, calling something in, creating an offering, and when it feels big and it feels like too big for me, or like too intense or too woo, or who the fuck do I think I am? Whenever I have those feelings about an offering, those are the ones that tend to blow the fucking ass off of people in the best way. So if you are feeling even the slightest bit of curiosity, if I've tickled your pickle, if I've floated your boat in any kind of way talking about this, get your ass into that fucking activation Saturday and Sunday. Even if you can't make it live, don't worry. You don't have to be there live. You can watch the replays. We're aiming for 90 minutes. I have put aside 2 hours on each of those days just in case, because once Jamie and I get going and once the clearing starts, we might run over a little bit. Just saying, give yourself 2 hours, because even if we do finish promptly after 90 minutes, you're probably going to want 30 minutes to do some journaling, have some water, lay flat on the floor and dribble for a little while. So give yourself 2 hours. All you really need to bring is yourself, probably a journal. I would highly recommend creating a space that feels kind of nourishing, that you feel held, but that feels beautiful as well. It feels important to have beautiful things around you as we're doing this. So I hope to see you there. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm trepidatious, if that's even a word. Let's do it. Bye.